So we discussed yesterday the Mishnah, the Brisa that says that if it's a suffix, if it's aser, then afilu be'elef loy batel, even in 1,000 it's not batel. So the Gemara wants to try to understand over here why is it not batel. We said that it very well if we say that it's a davar chashav. So davar chashav, which is something that you count the object itself, that's not batel. However, something that's counted, sold, bought by a volume, that is not considered chashav, and that is batel. So the Gemara says very well, according to the Mandamer, that holds that we go by what the norm is. Kol shadar k'nemanis. If the norm is to count by the object, such as eggs, so then it's considered chashav, and an egg is chashav. However, according to Mandamer, that there's only 7 or 6 things in this world that are considered chashav, so then an egg is not chashav. So then why should it not be batel? There's no reason why the Brisa says that afilu be'elef loy batel. So the Gemara says, you know, the high tana, 4 lines on the bottom. High tana de litra ketzias. Gimel amid beis, 4 lines on the bottom. High tana de litra ketzias. This tana that holds that afilu be'elef loy batel is the tana of litra ketzias. Litra ketzias is a measurement of pressed figs. What they used to do is like cheese. You know, they have these like barrels of cheese. You know, eventually they peel it out. But it's like a huge thing of cheese. So the same thing, they had the litra ketzias, which was pressed figs, that they would press it into a barrel. And what happened was over here, this person pressed a bunch of barrels, and the top layer, instead of putting in a regular figs, he put in truma figs. Now, at the end of the day, he doesn't know which barrel he put the truma figs in. Now, he didn't just stuff it into the bottom or mix it in. What happens is, it seems like it goes by layers. Now, the top layer was this questionable figs that he's pressed in. So let's see. Tana de litra ketzusu, the Amar, kol davar shebeminyan afilu b'derabanan lebatel. Anything that can be counted, even a derabanan, issa derabanan, is not batel. V'kolshkem b'deraisa, and definitely by issa deraisa. Now, we learned in the Mishnah as follows. Litra ketzius. What happens if somebody, by mistake, he was pressing a bunch of barrels, and by mistake, he takes the last layer and he puts in figs that are truma. Now on the top, on the mouth of the roundness, on the mouth of the top of the barrel, he puts in 1 round of the pressed figs. The pressed figs were put into an eagle. That means like a wheel. You know, I don't know if you have in Israel, they have them today also, like a wheel of figs, something like that. And they pressed it in, and I guess this wheel they put into the barrel. So the top layer was truma, but he's not sure which barrel has a truma. So he doesn't know which one it is. On top of the chavis, he doesn't know which chavis it is. On top of a basket, he doesn't know which one it is. But the main thing is that it's on top, and he doesn't know which top is the truma one. Rameir says that the machlekes is what happens is like this. Normally, we should have a bunch of... the question is, which top is truma? So if the question is, which top is truma, so I need tops to be batel. However, Rebbe Lezer's mekel. Rebbe Lezer says that what you can do is like this. You can take the top, and you separate it, technically, you separate it, not physically, you separate it from the rest of the barrel, and you say like this, that if this top layer of truma is batel by the rest of the barrel, then it'll be batel. And the bottom ones are mevatel, the top ones. So if I have enough, that means if I have 101, enough against this layer, this top layer of truma, if the bottom layers are enough keneged the top layer of truma, then it's batel even in its own barrel. Rabbi Shuai?
On all the bottles? Is there all
no, we're not sure. We're not sure. What again?
So you got 100 barrels.
So let's say I have 10 barrels. Better. Let's say I have 10 barrels. 10 barrels batsim. It's 10 tops. 10 tops on a bottle because I have to be involved in 100. However, over here, because that I can separate the top part of the barrel from the bottom part of the barrel, and the bottom parts of the barrel are 101 against the top part. Therefore, it will be bottle according to Rebbe Lezer. However,
Wouldn't the only work if it was ain't a nicker? Here it's nicker.
It's not nicker.
It is. I mean, you know it's
I don't know which one. I know top layer. That's the chiddush.
It's not something that's absorbed in. It is
true, and that is the chiddush. 100%. That's the chiddush. So Rabbi Shua Omer, Im yesham mei apumen yalu v'mlav apumen asurim. Rabbi Shua says no. That I need tops to be bottled. You're right. I don't know which top is truma and which top isn't. Say if I have 100 tops, 100 barrels, then it'll be bottled. 101 barrels, then it'll be bottled. V'mlav apumen asurim v'shalayim etarn. And if not, then all the tops are bottled, but obviously the bottom parts are mutter because there's no reason to ask the bottom parts. The bottom parts I know, definitely are not truma. Rabbi Yehuda says no. The machlekes is as follows. Rabbi Lezer says Rabbi Lezer says that if there's 100 tops, then it can be bottled. And if not, if there isn't 100, there's not enough to be bottled, then the tops are all aser. And obviously the rest of the barrel is mutter. Rabbi Shua Imer, however, Rabbi Shua is machmar. Rabbi Shua holds I feel yesham shalosh meis pumen, even if there's more than enough, there's 300 times the amount of tops, mouths, then lo yalu, it's still not bottle. Okay, because Rabbi Shua holds that anything of value, because over here we look at these literature ketzias as separate, and it's considered of value, and therefore it's not bottle. Okay. So obviously our Mishnah that holds that it's not bottle is going according to Rabbi Yehuda in the Shita of Rabbi Shua. Okay, which holds that even in 300 it's not bottle. Now what happens? Darsa be'igul ve'eni yedei be'ezi igul darsa. What happens if I press it into a round, into one of the rounds, and I don't know which one it is? Divrei kol yalu. Everybody holds that it's bottle. Everybody holds bottle. The Gemara says, what do you mean? That doesn't make sense. Divrei kol hainu puktayu. We just discussed this is a machlekes. What do you mean that everybody holds its bottle? On Rav Papa, what it means is like this. The case is as follows. Hachi kamar. Darsa be'igul ve'eni yedei be'ezi makam igul darsa. What happens if I press figs of truma inside one of these rounds, and I don't know which part I put it into? That means that it's not like the case before that I know that it's the top part that's truma. Over here in this case, it's totally mixed up, and I have no idea which part is truma and which part isn't. So the halacha is ila tzvi and ila drum. I don't know if I put it to the north side of the barrel, the south side. Divrei kol yalu. Everybody holds that if it has the shear, then in that case, because it's pressed in, everybody holds that it's seen as one thing and it's bottle. Okay, Ravashi has a different explanation of why in this brisa we hold it even be'elef le bottle, even in 1,000 it's not bottle. Ravashi Amar lo elam safek yantiv safek kol. The truth is that it's a safek yantiv and it's safek kol. We asked that if it's safek yantiv safek kol, it's derabanan. Havidavish yasham etirim, but the fact is it's davish yasham etirim because you can wait a day and then it'll be mutter. V'chol davish yasham etirim I feel b'derabanan le bottle, and he holds that everything that has a matir, even b'derabanan, is not bottle. So that's why in the brisa it's not bottle. Tanya. So we learned halacha. Interesting halacha. The halacha is that an egg you're allowed to eat it and its mother. You're allowed to eat the egg and the mother on Shabbos or Yontif. So the Gemara asks like this: I don't understand. What are we talking about? If we're discussing a bird that's meant to be eaten, it's simple that I'm allowed to eat the egg and the bird. Because we learned that the bird is not muktzah, and then the food that comes out is just a separation of food. Ella, obviously, we have to be talking about it. We're talking about a bird that's meant to lay eggs, so therefore it's considered muktzah. Anything that comes out is considered muktzah because the egg itself, the bird itself, is not the mutter, and the egg should be aser also. So the Gemara says, then it should be asura, and then it should be aser. So what's going on here? Why is he saying that the egg and the bird? You have to understand that there's a chiddush over here, the egg and the bird. Normally we could just say that an egg is mutter. That's what we learned in the Mishnah, fine. But over here it seems like he's saying something extra. Not only is the egg mutter, the bird is also mutter. So we're trying to understand what's the chiddush, what kind of case do you have that it's going to be a chiddush that the egg and the bird can be eaten? We see that if it's oimid la'achila, okay, so it's simple that the egg and the bird can be eaten. And if it's not oimid la'achila, it's simple that they should both be aser. So why is it mutter at all? So what's the case? Amar Rav Zera, teichel agav ima. What he means is, you can eat it because of the bird. Heichidami. Amar Aryai, kigain shalach stam. What happens like this? When I buy a bird and he still didn't decide yet what to do with the bird, he bought it stam. So if it's nishchata, if you shecht it on yantiv, hovra da achilai medes, obviously this shows that it was up to being eaten. So if it was supposed to be eaten, so then the egg is mutter also. However, if you did not shecht on yantiv, so then that shows overall delgado beitim. So this shows that it was supposed to be raised for laying eggs, and then everything should be usher. So agav ima means, what does it mean when Rabbi Lezer says BEITZA teichel hi v'ima? It means that you can eat the egg because of the mother. When you decide what to do with the mother, when the action that you do shows what you decide to do with the mother, that'll be matir the egg also.
Sorry, that's designated from Ba'ol Yom?
So that's the chiddush of it. Very good. That's the chiddush.
What's the question?
That's the chiddush. He wants to know, don't I have to prepare beforehand? The chiddush is that because it's bought stam, so my action today can could be mevar,
so the
clarify what I did.
The action of shmita
is going
determine
to
that,
right.
but the action of not shmita, how does that determine that he intended?
I guess it's so.
It doesn't prove anything.
Right. So right. So the real, it's a good question. But the real truth is that even the action of shchita itself is a big chiddush that can clarify what I bought it for. So I guess any hindrance of that or any not doing something positive would be a problem.
So just a very quick question.
Just the opposite. You understand? We're starting off with a problem. The problem is that I did not prepare it. So there's a chiddush over here that if you shecht it, then it's considered food. So right away, once I don't do that, so it'll pull back to its status of being usher.
Right. So if you don't shecht the hen,
Yeah.
you said the egg is aser, but the egg is mutter if your intention is to.
Right. So, but over here I didn't have any intention. So the act of whatever I do that day is going to prove. Is going to clarify.
Why have to be chiddush? Bet Hillel says second day, right?
Yeah, but that's only, we said that it's only mutter if it's Aymed Lachila. That's what Bissel says. And we're talking about this day itself. Okay. Amar Baya, that's Rav Mary Amar Guzma. Rav Mary says that when we said hi v'ima, that's a guzma. A guzma means an extra word, a sfas yaser, or it means something that's not exact. When you say something that's not exactly what you mean, so it's what?
Exaggeration.
An exaggeration. But it's not always an exaggeration. A lot of times it's just some extra something to make my point stronger. So Rav Miriam a guzma ktani, the Tanya, and I'll prove to you that sometimes we have a guzma even in a brayso, the Tanya. You're allowed to eat an egg with its mother, and the afreich is a chick that is coming out of the egg. We'll see v'klipasai and the shell. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. My klipasai. What are you talking about shell over here? If you're going to say that you're allowed to eat the shell, klipa basachili, it's not edible. Ella freyach beklipasai. We're talking about a chick inside the egg. That means it didn't come out, it didn't hatch yet. Now there's a machlekes like this. Machlekes is, we learn from a pasuk that you're not allowed to eat shratzim, and it teaches us, we'll see later, that you're not allowed to eat an egg that didn't hatch, a chick that did not hatch yet, you're not allowed to eat, or a chick that didn't open up its eyes, you're not allowed to eat. So the question is like this. The Chacham hold you're allowed to, and the Rabbi Lezer holds you're not allowed to. So we have like this. The Chacham arguing Rabbi Lezer. The only time the Chacham hold that even though a bird did not open up its eyes, it's not considered a sheretz. That's only when it actually hatched, but its eyes didn't open. But if it didn't go out of the egg yet, out of the shell, then even the Chacham agree that it's considered a sheretz and it's also to eat. And they don't argue in that case. Ella, so what does it mean? The shells. Ella freach v'klipasei guzma. When we say klipasei, the shell, we just mean that it's all mutter, but the klipa itself is extra, and we don't mean that. Hachanami techel hi v'ima guzma. So to over here also, the egg and the bird is also a guzma. The real truth is that the halach is just on the egg, and he's saying that that's mutter. Itmar Shabbos Yantav Rav Amar Nolda B'zeh Asur B'zeh. Okay, so what happens if you have an egg that's born on Shabbos, that's laid on Shabbos, or laid on Yantav? Rav Amar, Rav holds Nolda B'zeh Asur B'zeh. And that if it's laid on one day on a Shabbos, it's Asur on Yantav. If it's laid on a Yantav, it's Asur on a Shabbos. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Nolda B'zeh Mutaris B'zeh. Rabbi Yochanan holds it is mutter from one day to the next. It is mutter. On the day itself that it's laid, you're right, it might be aser. But on the next day, it's mutter. So the Gemara says, Neiven K'sav Rav Kedusha Achasi. You know what the machlekes is? If it's mutter from one day from the previous day or not. So the reason is because Rav holds kedusha achas. That means if I have a Shabbos and then Yontif, so we see it as one long day. So if it's one long day, even the next day is considered as the previous day, and therefore everybody agrees that on the day itself that it was late is Aser. So therefore it's Aser even the next day. And so okay, and that's the reason for Rav that holds that it's Aser. So the Gemara says, "V'amar Rav, how can you say this? V'amar Rav, halacha ka'arba zakanim, v'aliba de Rabbi Lazar." Rav always said halacha is like the 4 zakanim, and and one of those zakanim is Rabbi Lazar that holds that what the Amar Shtei Kedusha saying that it's 2 Kedusha. So how can you tell me that the reason why Rav holds that it's Aser on the next day is because it's considered one long day, and on the day itself that it was late, everybody holds Aser. And what do you mean? Rav passes like a Rabbi Lazar that holds that it's Shtei Kedushas, and Shtei Kedushas means that it's 2 separate days, so therefore it should be mutter on the next day. Ella, you know what the machlekes over here is, if you're allowed to use it, you're allowed to eat the egg on the next day. Ella hacha b'achana the Rabba comifically, the argument the machlekes that we learned before, Rabba says that you're not allowed to prepare from one day to the next, from Shabbos to Yontif. So you're right, maybe in the next day, it wasn't born, it wasn't late on that day. However, because it was prepared from a Shabbos, you're not allowed to eat it to Yontif. Prepared from a Yontif, you're not allowed to eat it on a Shabbos. Rav is le'achana the Rabba. Rav holds of Rabba over Rabbi Yechon, unless le'achana Rabba, and Rabbi Yechon does not hold of Rabba. Kitanoi, nolda b'Shabbos, techel b'Yontif. Like we learned, nolda b'Shabbos, techel b'Yontif. If it's late on Shabbos, you can eat it on Yontif. B'Yontif Tochel b'Shabbos, and if it's late in Yontif, you can eat it on Shabbos. Rabbi Huda argues, Rabbi Huda Eimer Mishom Rabbi Lazar Daini Machlekes. It is like the Machlekes of Shabishamei Eimerim Tochel Beisil Eimer Leit Tochel. Okay, so we say that this Machlekes of Rav and Rabbi Yechanan is the same Machlekes of Rabbi Huda and Rabbi Lazar, that it's questionable if you're allowed to eat the egg that was laid on the previous day. Now the Gemara tells us a story. Yishpazincha de Rav Ada bar Ahava, the host of Rav Ada bar Ahava, Havale Hanach Beyim Yontif l'Shabbos. It was a Yontif, and the next day was going to be a Shabbos. And he had eggs that were laid on the first day, on the Yontif day. Now he came, he came to Rav Ada bar Ahava, and he asked him, he says, listen, I don't want to eat these eggs raw. Can I go and tomorrow you're not going to be able to roast anything? Can I go and roast the eggs today? You're right, I won't eat it today. I'll just roast it today and I'll eat it tomorrow because I know the halacha was a Talmud Chacham. I know the halacha that you're not allowed to eat it on that day. I'll eat it tomorrow, but at least let me roast it today. Amalei, my daitcha. Why do you think so? Rav Rabbi Yechanan, halacha is like Rabbi Yechanan, and I feel Rabbi Yechanan. Loika Shari, even Rabbi Yechanan says that it's mutter to eat, but however, he only held El Ligmayel Amachar. That's only that you can eat it the next day on Shabbos. And you're right, on Shabbos it will be raw, so you'll drink it raw. You're not allowed to eat it, but on this day, you're not allowed to do anything with it. That means like this, that the day that the egg is laid, it's muktzah. You're not allowed to touch it. And so he said, you think that what it means is that it's not muktzah, that you're just not allowed to eat it. And you'll wait till the next day to eat it. He says, no, you're not even allowed to touch it, Vatanya, like we learned in a BEITZA. Achas beish and older b'Shabbos, achas beish and older b'Yontif. Aim talk on it, say, lo yichas b'yasakli, v'lo ylisbach by karamit. You're not allowed to use it for a cover of a kli, and you're not allowed to use it for the bottom of one of the legs of the bed. So we see clearly that it is muktzah, and you're not allowed to touch it on that day.
Let's say you did touch it. Could you?
So you'll have a muktzah.
Can you cook it the next day?
Next day.
No, that's by any halach of muktzah.
Next day.
You can't cook it the next day. You mean, let's say I cooked it if it's mutter to eat it the next day.
Right.
So that's any halach of muktzah. There's a difference in machlekes if you have to wait, or maybe only you're not allowed to eat it, somebody else can, or you're not allowed to eat forever, somebody else could eat after Yontif. Okay, shpazincha there have Papa. The host of Rav Papa, and those that say that it was just a person, the Asla came to Rav Papa, they came to ask Rav Papa Shaila, he says, what happens, these eggs from Shabbos to Yontif, he also wanted to know, was he Yontif and then a Shabbos, and he wanted to know if you can prepare these eggs to the next day. Come Shabbos and Yontif. He said, come back tomorrow. He's come back tomorrow. I don't want to answer you today. Why? The Rav Moika Amoira Luya Miyame Tov Lechavre Mishum Shikras. Rav did not answer any questions after he ate a Suda because he got drunk by a Suda and he didn't, or at least drunk enough that he didn't want to answer, he didn't want to paskin any shilas. And so he said, don't come back to me tomorrow. Anyway, you want to know for tomorrow. It was Shabbos and Yantif. You wanted to cook it on Yantif. He said, come back to me to ask me tomorrow. The Rabbi because he was drunk. Yossi, when he came the next day, Amar Lei, Eiku Hashta, he said, it's good you came today because it's Taloi. Because if you would have pushed me from yesterday, then I would have forgotten. I would have told you L'chumra that the halacha is like Rabbi and that it's aser if you would have asked me yesterday. But now that I had time and I guess my mind's clearer. The halacha is like Rav. The halacha is like Rav in these three things, three different halachas of Shabbos, Yantiv, Gedalia, and the Rosh Hashanah. But the halacha is like Rav, and it's mutter. Yeah. So he says. So therefore, it's good that you came to me today. Fine, very well. So eitzim shenashim menadekel. What happens like this? What happens if I have a tree that one of the branches falls down on Shabbos? Eitzim shenashim menadekel b'Shabbos. So now the next day is a yantif. What happens? Can I use it on the next day? We just learned by an egg that if it was laid on one day, it's mutter to use for the next day. How about a tree? What happens if a branch falls down on one day?
Isn't that like fruit falling? If a fruit falls down, you can't use it because in case you might come to...
Yeah, it's similar. But that's by Xero. Who says over here we're discussing Xero? We're discussing just the case itself of Muktzah. Let's see. So what happens if a branch falls down from a tree on Shabbos? Can I use it the next day? You're right. I can't use it on the day itself because the day itself is Muktzah. For whatever reason, it could be that it's Xero, but the day itself is Muktzah. The next day, can I use it or not? The next day it's aser. Why is it aser? Don't tell me that by BEITZA we said that it's mutter. My time of BEITZA mishun to be leguma What happens like this? He says, don't compare it to an egg. Why? Because an egg, the truth is like this: an egg can be eaten raw. Right? You can eat an egg raw. I don't know if I'm sure everybody eats eggs raw. You can eat an egg raw. What? Chazanim. Yeah, it's good for the throat, whatever it is. So anyway, you can eat an egg raw. Now, when somebody is going to see that an egg was laid on Yantif or Shabbos, let's say even Yantif, and you're going to see that the person's not using it, he's waiting for the next day to use it, you're going to say, why are you not using it on that day? Obviously, the reason is because an egg laid on that day is aser. It's only mutter on the next day. However, a tree, let's say a tree branch fell down on Shabbos, and then the next day it's mutter. So now a person sees that picture and he sees that playing out, he says, you know why he didn't use the branch on the previous day, on the day that it fell down? And that's because you're not allowed to cook anything on Shabbos. You're not allowed to make a fire on Shabbos. But the truth is that if it falls down on a Yantif, it should be mutter. So what's going to happen is he might make a mistake because then he'll think that if it falls down on a Yantif, it's mutter, and he'll himself go and if a tree that falls down a branch that falls down on a Yantif, he'll use. However, by an egg, you won't make that mistake because by an egg, it's so clear that it's specifically not being used on the day that it was laid. So let's see inside again. He says, my time in BEITZA. He says, is possible to use that. You can drink it on that day. And however, you're still not mutter till the next day. So therefore, so therefore, everybody will realize that anything that's laid on the day itself is aser. However, wood that let's say falls down on Shabbos, you cannot do anything with it on Shabbos. If you'll be mater at Lamachar for the next day, people will come to say, and they'll say, let's see, next year it falls down on a Yantif, the branch falls down on a Yantif itself. They say, if it falls down, it's mutter on Yantif. Last year, when the person didn't use it, that's only because it fell down on a Shabbos, and you can't make a fire on Shabbos. And last time, yesterday, the only problem was because it fell down on a Shabbos. And I'm not allowed to make a fire on Shabbos. So therefore, I didn't use it. However, if falls down Yontif, it is mutter. So therefore, across the board, we say that it's aser. Amar of Masna. What happens if what happens? You're right. We say that a branch that fall down off a tree on Yontif is aser. What happens, however, if what are you laughing? What happens if it falls down? The branch falls down directly into the fire. So it falls down into the fire. The question is, what should I do? B'Yontif, what do I do? Mar ba'aleim eitzim mechanu mesikin. So what I do is like this. I'm allowed to make a fire on Shabbos. So I want to be mavatal on Yontif. I'm sorry. And I want to be mavatal because I want to use the fire. So what I do is I add on much more of my prepared wood that I had, and I'm mavatal b'roiv. I don't know, I'm mavatal it.
Then you might be using up your supply too quickly.
Okay, so but if not, you don't get a fire at all. This way, at least you can do something, right? So the Gemara says, fine, that's very well with adding fire, but at the end of the day, you have to always turn the woods in order to get the fire going. You got to stoke the fire. And the fact is, you're going to touch the Isser wood, and we said that it's muktzah. So the Gemara says, keeping the ruba that we say that it's bottle. So therefore, we assume that he's only stoking the mutter logs. In fact, the Gemara, how can you tell me that you're allowed to add fire to this Isser fire? Right? We have an Isser fire. We have a fire that's cut from branches that fell down in Yontif that we say is Isser. How can we say that you're allowed to add more wood to it to be mavatal it? We know that you're not allowed to be mavatal something lechatchila. If it happens, so it's questionable if it's batal or not. So you find it's batal. However, you're not allowed to go outright and be mavatal something. You have a piece of meat. You're not allowed to add enough milk to be, I don't know, whatever case, to be mavatal. You're not allowed to do that.
The premise is that there's already a ton of fire, right?
Yeah, but it's still not. Let's say there's a ton. I don't know if it's lit or not, but let's say it's lit. Fine, let's say it's lit. No problem. Let's say it's lit. So what? But at the end of the day, right now I have a huge fire going that's basically Isser wood. So the only way for me to use
before the tree falls.
So let's say it's small. It's a small little fire, and now I want to heat it up. I'm about to go, and my luck, boom! Right when I'm about to add wood, this branch fell down. So now I have a huge fire. The only way for me to use it is to be mavatal it.
It's already mavatal if there's already something underneath. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, he's saying.
No, let's say that underneath is not big enough. Let's say I have a small little fire, a candle, and it falls down. Right, I have it going.
Why do you say that this wood already changed form?
So let's see. So very good. So the Gemara says you're on the ball today. So the Gemara says like this, every day, but not okay. So so the Gemara says so hani mili b'deraisa. So the Gemara says you're right. I'm not allowed to be mavatal midiraisa, but hani milu midiraisa. Only midiraisa I'm not allowed to be mavatal. Something of b'deraban I'm mavatalin. Ula Ravashi the Amar kol davish yesh l'matir and afilu b'deraban lebatal ma'ikol. Remember, according to Ravashi, that it holds kol davish yesh l'matir because you can wait till the next day. What are you going to do according to him? Ma'ikol. Hani milu hechad isur yisur be'ina. That's only if you can actually see the isur. But hacha makla kol yisur. But over here, like he said, the isur is being consumed. It's being ruined. So therefore, it's mutter. Itmar Shnei Yom Tovim Shel Golius Rav Omel Nodu B'Zeh Mutaris B'Zeh. This I think Mendel asked when we discussed Rosh Hashanah, we said that it's mutually exclusive. Something, right? Remember we learned that case that is something that's Aser, let's say laid or Truma. So that comes the first day. By the second day, it should be mutter because it's if the first day was Yantif, so now it's Chol, and if the first day was Chol, then today's Yantif. So anyway, it should be mutter. So Itmar Shnei Yom. This halacha should be even by Yantif Sheni Shagalius too, not only by Rosh Hashanah. Let's see. Itmar Shnei Yom Tovim Shagalius, 2 Yom Tovim Shagalius. Rav Amar Nolda B'Zeh Mutaris B'Zeh. Rav holds that if it's laid on one day, the first day, then it's mutter on the second day. Rav Asi Amar Nolda B'Zeh Sur B'Zeh. And Ravasi holds that even if it was late the previous day, it's also in the second day. Why would it be also in the second day? If it's mutually exclusive, why should it be also in the second day? Obviously, Ravasi holds that at the end of the day, today, the reason when we have 2 days of Yom Tif, the same way like Rosh Hashanah, across the board, there's 2 days, even in Yom Tif Sheni Shagalius, at the end of the day, it's 2 days by Takanas Chachamim. The Chachamim said that it's 2 days, and therefore it has its koyach as not being mutually exclusive. It has its koyach of being kedusha achas, and therefore it's seen as one long yantif. So the Gemara says, how can you tell me that it's one Kedusha, it's one long Yantiv? Ravasi would make Havdalah from one day to the next. So obviously he holds that it's two different Yom Tovim. Ravasi, so the Gemara says, no. Ravasi is Sefuka Mesapkalei, Va'avid Hachal Chomer B'Hachal Chomer. Ravasi wasn't sure if it's one day, if it's considered one day, or if it's considered 2 days, and therefore he would go to Chumrah across the board. So if we have something that was laid on the day before, so the Chumrah, that would mean that it's Asar on the second day. And so too l'chumra he would make Havdalah. Amar Abzera, Kavase der Ravasi Mistabra makes sense according to Ravasi, the Idna Yedina B'Kviyah Diarcha, because today we have a calendar, and yet V'Kav Dinan Trei Yoma, and we still hold of 2 days. Why would you hold of 2 days? Obviously, what's the reason? The reason is because it's a Takanas Chachamim, and the Chachamim were Masakin that you have to keep 2 days. And that's it, finished. There's no way, even if you know what the actual day is. Amar Abai, Kvasi the Rav Mistavram. Abai says no, it makes more sense according to Rav. It's not Berishayne Misiyam Asuis. Originally, what they would do is like this: Bezdin would pick up a huge flame and show that they were Makadosh the day. And then on the next mountain, they would see the flame and they pick up another one. Till we see the Mishnah, it says till the whole valley, everything looked like a bunch of flames. It must have been a sight. So anyway. Then what happened was the Kusim came around. They wanted to mess things up, so they would light a flame on the wrong day, and they would mess it up. You get the wrong simon. They would do it the day before, whatever it is. They would mess it up. So therefore, Iskinu, to circumvent that, Iskinu shiyu shluchen yotzim. They were masakin that shluchas and bezdin. I guess people knew who the shliach was. Shluchei bezdin yotzim, and they would go out and they would tell everybody that today is Rish Chodesh.
Sent out writers.
Sent out writers, 100%. V'ilu batlu kusim avdina. But the fact is, we see like this: that what would happen if the kusim would stop their fight and they would stop doing what they're doing? Then we'd go back to square one. And what would happen was, it seems that it would be a much faster way of communication. And then avdina chad yom. And then the places that the riders cannot get there fast enough, quick enough. Yet by the system of flames, it would be quick enough. Then we would go back to the original case, and they would keep 1 day instead of 2 days in those faraway places that riders cannot get there in time, yet flames can get there in time. And let's say a place, I'm sure it was a winter, or it was rainy, it was hard weather. Some places at the edge of the outskirts, some places the shluchim were able to get there in time, and some places when it was bad weather, they were not able to get there in time. And obviously it was dependent on the shluchim. So I'm sure there were plenty of cities, countries, whatever it is, that sometimes the shliach got there in time, sometimes the shliach did not get there in time. Yeah, and we did it accordingly. Sometimes we kept 1 day, sometimes we kept 2 days. So therefore, obviously it's dependent on the knowledge. It's dependent on the knowledge of knowing what day Rosh Chodesh is. So too today, if we know when Rosh Chodesh is, we should keep. Why do we keep 2 days? So the Gemara says, his haru b'minig avesechem v'yidechem. We said that there's a minig avesechem v'yidechem, and that's the reason why we keep it. And you should just know that a minig is there's a reason, and what's going to happen is 1 day, zimnim the gazra malchus gzeira, 1 day this thing can, the malchus, the kingdom could be geyser, gzeira, they could issue a decree, v'asel kakula, and it could come out of kilkul. That means that 1 day maybe somebody will forget how to write a calendar, or we won't have all these kolim, and kilkul will come out, and they're going to say, oh, there's only such a thing as 1 day. And at the end of the day, really, they're going to be machal yantif. So therefore, you have to keep 2 days. Okay, Atkan.